On Christmas, my son told me the greatest gift I could give him was to not be there. So I left without saying a word. I paid off the rest of their house, sold it quietly, and flew to Florida alone. Before heading to the airport, I left a single envelope on his desk. It shattered them inside. If you enjoy stories of quiet revenge, be sure to subscribe to my new channel, Revenge Power, for more shocking, emotional, and unforgettable tales like this one. The link is in the description. Go check it out and support the channel. Hey everyone, welcome to Behind Dad. If you love real family stories that dig into the pain of betrayal and the silent power of consequences, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. You'll want to stay until the very end to see how that Christmas changed everything for us. My name is Jack Thompson. I'm a 67-year-old father from Michigan. I spent over 40 years building a good life for my only son. After my wife passed away when Ethan was just 12, I became both mom and dad to him. I worked 2 jobs for years, often coming home exhausted, just so he could have everything I never had growing up. Private school, expensive sports gear, college tuition at a good university, and later the down payment on a beautiful, spacious house for him, his wife Sarah, and their 2 kids. I made every birthday party, every soccer game, every holiday gathering without fail. I thought we were close. But as Ethan climbed higher in his tech career and started making real money, he began to change. He started acting like I was old and embarrassing. His wife Sarah encouraged that attitude, often rolling her eyes when I offered advice or help. Slowly they pushed me to the sidelines, only calling when they needed something. That Christmas Eve, we were all gathered at their large house for dinner, like every year. The tree looked beautiful. The kids were laughing, opening small gifts. The smell of roasted turkey and fresh cookies filled the air. I felt grateful just to be there with my family. After dinner, while we sat in the living room, I offered to help with some of their upcoming bills since Ethan had mentioned money was a little tight. That's when he had too much wine and snapped. In front of everyone, he said loudly, "Dad, honestly, the best gift you could give us this year is your absence. We really need space." The room went completely silent. Sarah gave a small smile like she agreed. The grandkids looked confused and uncomfortable. I felt my heart crack into pieces. But I didn't raise my voice or argue. I just nodded, stood up quietly, put on my coat, and walked out into the cold Michigan night. No drama, no yelling, just deep, quiet pain as I drove home that Christmas night with tears running down my face. For years, I had ignored the small signs of their ingratitude. But that one sentence finally broke something deep inside me. The next morning, I woke up with a clear head and started making calls. First, I paid off the remaining mortgage on their house in full using savings I had carefully put aside over the years. It came to over $280,000. Then I called an old real estate lawyer friend and quietly began the legal process to sell the house. Very few people knew that the house was still technically in my name because I had co-signed and helped finance it years ago when Ethan and Sarah couldn't qualify for the loan on their own. They had no idea about that critical detail. I worked fast and quietly over the next few days. I packed my essential belongings, booked a one-way ticket to Florida, and arranged for the rest of my things to be moved later. On the morning I was scheduled to leave for the airport, I drove back to their house one last time. They were still asleep after the late Christmas celebrations. I used my spare key to slip inside quietly and placed a thick white envelope right in the center of Ethan's desk in his home office. Inside was a long handwritten letter from my heart, along with copies of all the financial documents showing what I had done. I didn't wait for them to wake up. I locked the door behind me, drove straight to the airport, and boarded my flight. By the time I landed in sunny Florida and settled into a small but comfortable beach condo, my phone was exploding with calls and messages. Ethan called dozens of times. Sarah, too. I let every call go to voicemail. I sat on the balcony overlooking the ocean waves and finally felt a strange sense of peace and freedom I hadn't felt in years. I had given them almost everything I had, and they threw it back in my face on Christmas. Now they would finally learn what life looked like without my constant support. 2 days later, the real estate agent started showing the house to potential buyers. Ethan and Sarah still had no clue what was coming. They thought I would eventually calm down, apologize, and come back, like I always had in the past. But this time they were wrong. Ethan finally got through to me on the 3rd day. His voice was angry and confused at first. "Dad, what is this letter? You can't be serious about this." I stayed completely calm and told him to read every single word carefully and look at the documents I left. In that long letter, I explained exactly how I had paid off the full mortgage and put the house up for sale. I listed every major sacrifice I had made for him over the years. The college loans I paid off completely, the cars I bought, the medical bills I covered, and the countless overtime hours I worked while he was enjoying college life. I wrote that the best gift I could finally give myself was peace, away from people who only saw me as a source of money and convenience. Sarah called me next, crying dramatically and saying I was being cruel and selfish. She kept bringing up the grandkids. I gently reminded her how the kids barely spoke to me during holidays unless they wanted new toys or gadgets. The house sold in less than 2 weeks for a strong price. When Ethan and Sarah received the official legal notice to vacate the property within 30 days, they went into complete panic mode. They had spent most of their income on luxury cars, expensive vacations, and a lifestyle they couldn't actually afford without my help. Now they suddenly had to find a new place to live on short notice. I watched everything unfold from my peaceful condo in Florida. Ethan lost some respect at his workplace when word of the family drama spread. Sarah had to cancel their planned New Year's trip to Aspen. The grandkids kept asking why Grandpa wasn't coming around anymore. For the first time in their comfortable lives, they started feeling the real weight of the words Ethan had spoken on Christmas. The quiet consequences were more powerful than any argument could ever be. Meanwhile, I was slowly building a new life for myself. I joined a local fishing club, walked along the beach every single morning, and finally allowed myself to rest after decades of non-stop hard work. The envelope I left on Ethan's desk contained more than just the letter. I also included detailed bank statements showing every dollar I had given their family over the past 15 years. The total came to more than $800,000. At the very end of the letter, I wrote these words: "You wanted my absence. Now you have it permanently. Enjoy all the space you asked for." Ethan showed up at my old empty house a few days after the sale closed, but I was already long gone in Florida. He called me crying this time, saying he didn't mean what he said, and that it was just the alcohol talking on Christmas. Sarah sent me long emotional messages begging me to reconsider and come back. But the damage had already been done. I told them both that I still loved them, but I refused to be disrespected and used any longer. I offered to help them find a modest apartment, but I made it very clear that the days of me solving all their financial problems were over for good. The grandkids started calling me directly on video calls. I spoke to them with warmth and love, but explained that sometimes grown-ups need to learn difficult lessons the hard way. Slowly, the truth started sinking in for everyone. Ethan began working longer hours to afford rent. Sarah had to sell some of her expensive designer bags and shoes. Their so-called perfect life without me turned out to be much harder and lonelier than they had ever imagined. In Florida, I was healing. I made new friends in the community, went fishing almost every weekend, and even started dating a kind, gentle woman named Margaret who lived a few blocks from the beach. For the first time in many years, I felt truly free and at peace. Several months passed. Ethan and Sarah moved into a much smaller apartment. They started treating people around them with more respect after losing the comfort and security I had always provided. The grandkids came to visit me in Florida during their spring break, and we had an amazing week together. They told me how much they missed our old family dinners and how quiet the house felt without me. I hugged them tight and said that Grandpa would always be there for them, but things with their parents needed to change first. Ethan eventually flew down to Florida by himself. We sat together on the beach at sunset and had the most honest conversation we had ever shared. He admitted with real tears that he had become arrogant and stopped appreciating everything I had sacrificed for him. He apologized sincerely for his words on Christmas. I forgave him, but I also told him that forgiveness did not mean returning to the old unhealthy pattern. We agreed on new, healthier boundaries for our relationship. I would stay in their lives, but only on my own terms from now on. Sarah called me a few days later and apologized too. She said watching me walk away on Christmas and then losing the house had finally opened her eyes to how ungrateful they had been. They both started working seriously on becoming better parents and better children. The family slowly began healing, but it was different now. More respectful, more balanced, and much healthier than before. Today, I still live happily in my condo in Florida. I visit Michigan a few times a year, and the grandkids come down to see me often. Ethan and Sarah now treat me with genuine respect and appreciation. They finally understand that love, support, and family are not things you can take for granted forever. That Christmas, when my son told me my absence was the best gift, he had no idea it would become a permanent reality. The envelope I left on his desk destroyed their false sense of security. But in the long run, it saved our family from years of growing resentment and one-sided giving. Being a real dad sometimes means loving your children enough to walk away when they stop valuing you. I smiled quietly that day, paid off their house, sold it, and left for a new life. It was the hardest decision I ever made, but also the best one. If you're a parent watching this right now and your grown children have been taking you for granted, always remember your own worth. Sometimes the greatest lesson you can teach them is what life feels like without your constant support. If this story touched your heart, drop a comment below and tell me. Have you ever had to walk away from family to protect your peace and dignity? And if you know a dad who needs to hear this powerful message, please share this video with him right now. Thank you for watching Behind Dad. Hold your family close, but never forget your own value.